Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm PassioKnit Kelsie and you guys have been asking for some beginner knitting tutorials, so I thought we could do that today. This is going to be an introduction to knitting. I'm going to talk about yarn, needles, other tools you might need. I'm going to be going over the long tail cast on method. We're going to talk about the knit stitch, the garter stitch, and casting off. So let's go ahead and get started. Whenever you want to get into knitting, the first thing you're going to have to do is go to the store and find some yarn. You could always go to the regular craft stores like Joann's or Michael's, but also if you just happen to be at Walmart, they definitely have a nice selection of regular yarn. After you've gone to the store and you've found some yarn that looks nice and you want to start with that, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the yarn label and we are going to be looking for this section right here, okay? Now, if you can see, this information right here is what we're going to be focusing on. This top box, it has a picture of yarn on it and it says 5. That is going to tell you how thick your yarn is. So this yarn would be a weight 5. Our next box right here has the little knitting needles in it. So this is like the end of a knitting needle and this is like the pointy part of a knitting needle. And this is going to tell you how big of a knitting needle size you should use with this yarn. It's sort of like a recommendation. Down one box, that is the same exact thing, except for it's for a crochet hook instead of knitting needles. So this is going to tell you the suggested crochet hook size to use for this yarn. But since we are knitting today, we want to look for our knitting needles and we want to find out what size it's going to have us recommend. So right here at the very top, this one says 10.5 and then in parentheses it says 6.5 mm and that mm stands for millimeters. So I generally use hook sizing terms as millimeters, but they also have numbers. Some of them have letters, just, pick one and kind of go with it. So for this example, I'm going to be using the number that's inside of the parentheses, which is 6.5 millimeters. So now I want to look for some knitting needles that are a size 6.5 mm, okay? So I have these on hand. These are just straight needles. These are made of bamboo. If you're a beginner, I honestly recommend using wooden needles because they grip the yarn a little bit more than the metal needles so that it will hold on the stitches easier. A lot of times if you have metal needles, they tend to slide around a lot more. I know that these are the right needles because it tells me the size right here at the top. So if you remember on our yarn, it says 10.5 or 6.5 millimeters. So this size right here says number 10.5, so that is the 10.5, or it says 6.5 millimeter, 6.5 millimeter. Those two are the same things. Now these numbers up here, 9 inches, that is how long my knitting needles are from the top to the bottom. I would recommend 9 inches. It's a good starter. I can make a pretty nice scarf with these. You also don't want them too long because then they can get in your way. So 9 inches is a good starting point. If you can't find something exactly like that, all you need to do is match up the size number, 6.5, 6.5, and we are good to go. All right, so getting started with our yarn, I am always going to do a center pull. That is just my preference. You can also roll it into a ball, use it that way. You can pull straight from the outside, whatever you would like to do, but I am going to be reaching my little fingers into the center of this yarn skein here, and I'm going to be looking for that center piece. You kind of just have to go in blind and figure it out. I try to go all the way to the center, grab a piece of yarn and just pull it out. And hopefully that is close to the center. Yeah, so it might barf a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to open up my needles and get those ready. I'd recommend buying needles that say what size they are on the needle directly so you don't have to keep them in the package and you'll never be confused about what size they are. So if you look at these right here, it says 6.5 millimeter or 10.5. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to get our yarn on these needles, and that is going to be called casting on. I'm going to decide a certain amount of stitches that I want to do. We are just going to be making a little swatch just to practice our stitching. And I'm going to go ahead and make that 10 stitches long, okay? I am using the long tail cast on method, so I need to first measure how long my tail needs to be. Like I said, I want to cast on 10 stitches, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my needles, I'm going to take my yarn, I'm going to hold it on there with my thumb, and I'm going to wrap my yarn around 10 times. So this is one. I'm going to wrap 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay? Now that we have 10, I'm going to hold my fingers right there at the end. I can pull my needle out. And where my fingers are held, that is where we're going to have to tie our slip knot, okay? If you are a crocheter, you should know how to tie a slip knot. If you are new, basically what we're going to do, we're going to make a loop in our yarn. I'm going to take this thread and I'm going to put it through the loop towards the front. Grab it and pull it closed. So one more time. In my left hand I have my yarn and the tail is hanging down here by my pinky. I'm going to take this, I'm going to make a little loop like so. And then I'm going to take my long end that's still connected to my ball of yarn. I'm going to put it through the back and pull it up through the front of that loop. I'm going to grab it, and from here I'm going to pull on both of my ends to close the knot. Okay? Then you should have a slip knot. This can get bigger or smaller. I'm going to take one of my knitting needles and we're going to put that on the slip knot, and I'm going to close it up. Not too tight, but loose enough so that it can still move easily on the knitting needle, but not super loose either. Okay, so now we are going to do our long tail cast on method. So you're going to want to set up your yarn like this. The long piece that's still connected to my yarn ball is in the back, and the short piece is going to be in the front, okay? And it's going to be laid out and separated like so. Now, what I'm going to do with my left hand here is I'm going to make a little pointer with my pointer finger and my thumb. I'm going to stick that in between those two yarn pieces like so. I'm going to take the rest of my fingers now, and I'm going to hold all of the yarn. I'm just going to grab it, and then I will open up my pointer finger and my thumb so I can make this little diamond shape. From here, I'm going to flip my wrist over, and it's going to look something like this. Okay. What we're going to do from here is we're going to cast on our stitches. So I'm going to take my needle, I'm holding it with my right hand, and I have my fingers on my little slip knot just so that it doesn't fall off the end of my needle, okay? I'm going to go over to my thumb, and I'm going to pick up the outside yarn piece. I'm going to go under and swoop it up like this. Okay? Now I'm going to tilt it over, and I'm going to pick up the front yarn on my pointer finger. I'm going to go around the back and swoop it towards me. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take it through our thumb hole, this opening in the yarn, like this. Now I have another loop on my needle. I'm going to drop the yarn that's on my thumb, just like that. And I need the yarn back on my thumb, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it right down here. I'm going to pull it back around my thumb, and at the same time that is going to tighten our loose yarn up, okay? So now I have two loops on my needle, and we are just going to repeat the process, okay? So I'm going to pick up the outermost yarn on my thumb. I'm going to swoop outside in, pick it up, And then I'm going to go over to my pointer finger and pick up the closest yarn. I'm going to go around the back and swoop it up like that. Now I want to take my needle through the hole that is around my thumb, just like that. Now I'm going to drop my thumb. I want to pick it up, so I'll go right here through the bottom of the triangle. I'm going to swoop around and pick it up and tighten up that loop. Got it? So now we have 3. I want to do 10 in total, so I'm going to do 7 more. I'm just going to go through them slowly. You can watch and learn. If you need to go back through, I would just re-watch the first 2 where I vocally described what I was doing, but now I'm just going to visually show it to you, okay? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just need 2 more, okay? Okay guys, so I have done all 10 of my cast on stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You should have 10 total loops on your needle. So that would be 9 of the little cast on maneuvers, and then the 10th one should be your initial slip knot that we put on our needle, okay? So I'm actually going to take this needle and I'm going to transfer it to my left hand. Every time you are starting a row, all of your stitches should be on your left hand, on your left needle, okay? I'm going to pick up my empty needle with my right hand, and we are going to get started. So you're going to have to decide how you want to hold your working yarn. I am a crocheter. That is what I learned first. So my default is usually continental knitting, which means I hold my yarn with my left hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my working yarn with my pointer finger, and then I like to add extra tension by putting it around my pinky as well. So like this. You can do whatever you want. You can wrap it. You can do any kind of tension-y things. This is just what I usually do while I'm crocheting, so I have mimicked that while I am knitting. And then I'm just going to grab onto my needle. So this is what I'm looking like over here. On my right side, it's pretty plain. I'm just going to be holding my knitting needle, okay? Now we're going to get into stitching. I'm going to zoom you in a little bit so you can see a closer look. Before we get started, I do want to say your cast on stitches should be loose enough to slide up and down your needles. If they are not loose enough to do that, this first row might be very hard for you, and then I would suggest trying to cast on again, but trying to loosen up your stitches as you go, okay? All right, so to start, we are going to be going through our first stitch. I want to start on the left side right here. I want to go right through the bottom. And I'm going to stab diagonally up to the back. Okay? That's what it looks like. So, going through the left side, I'm stabbing up diagonally through the bottom of the stitch. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to take our working yarn and we need to put it in between these needles. So I'm going to go around my back needle like this. And then from here, what I need to do with my back needle is I need to grab this loop that we just wrapped around it. I need to pull it through this hole and bring it to the front. Just like that. Show you one more time. I've got my needle in the hole. I'm going to be wrapping it around my needle. It's going to go counterclockwise. And then I'm going to take this, pull it through the hole and out towards the front. I do like to put my finger on it just so I know that I'm not dropping it at all. It's just kind of a helpful guide. So I'm just going to put my finger here, bring it through the front. After we've done that, this whole stitch is going to slip off of our left needle. Just going to pull the whole thing off. Okay, so that is our first knit stitch, and now that is on our right needle. So I'm going to move on to our next one. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to come in from the left side. I'm going to go diagonally through the bottom and out at the back, like so. I'm going to wrap my working yarn around my back needle counterclockwise. And then I'm going to take this, pull it through this little hole that we just went through, and it'll come out on the front. And then we have to pull off this one off of our left needle, and it is now on our right needle. All right, so this is just going to continue in every stitch all the way across. We're going to go over to the left side of our stitch. I'm going to go up through the bottom like this. Now that I've got my right needle through the back, I'm going to wrap my working yarn counterclockwise. And I want to pull it up and through this hole. After you've done that, pull your stitch off your left needle, and it is now transferred to your right needle. Okay. Go through, wrap, pull it through the hole, slide it off. Go through the bottom, wrap it around, pull it through, slide it off. Just continue all the way across. Here's our last one. So I'm going to go through the back. I'm going to go right through the back here, diagonally to the front, wrap my yarn counterclockwise, pull it through our loop, and then transfer it off of our left needle. After you've finished your entire row, all of your stitches should now be on your right needle, and your left needle should be left empty, okay? All right, so to continue our work, we're going to have to switch hands. So I need to trade. Now I need to get myself set up over here. So I want to put my yarn in my tension hold, however you want to do it, and get ready. And now my empty needle is in my right hand, and I am ready to continue working. This is what the back of your knit stitches look like. You can see all of these little loops. And this is what the front of your knit stitches look like. You can see the classic loop around. Now I'm showing you guys today what is called the garter stitch, which means we knit every single row, front and back, okay? So we're just going to continue doing knit stitches. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to start on the left side of my loop. I'm going to go through the bottom, up through the back. I'm going to wrap my yarn counterclockwise. I'm going to pull it through the hole. And I'm going to slide that finished stitch off my left needle, and it is now transferred to my right needle, okay? And we will continue. So I'm going to go on my left side, through the bottom, to the back, wrap it counterclockwise, pull it through the hole, and transfer it off my left hook. Now it's on my right hook. Needles, so sorry. And that is how you do the knit stitch. Continue working at this as much as you need. I would suggest doing multiple rows, but you can just watch me for a little bit if you like. Every time you finish the row, all of your stitches should be on your right needle and your left hand should be empty. To start, you're going to have to switch them. Reset your grip on your yarn and do it all over again, okay? So go ahead and keep practicing. I'm going to do a few rows, come back and show you what it is looking like, okay? Okay guys, here's what my swatch is looking like. I've done about 15 rows. It looks the same on the front and the back. This is called a garter stitch. This is what happens whenever you knit in every stitch, front and back. I really like making scarves with this stitch. It stretches very nicely and it is very cute. So now that you've done a good amount of practice, I'm going to show you how to cast off, which is basically we're going to close off all of these live stitches. We're going to get the project off of our needles and finish it up. So once again, to start the row, our project needs to be in our left hand. I'm going to get my yarn situated in my tension hand, like so. And to cast off, I'm going to knit the first 2 stitches just like normal, okay? So I'm going to go in through my left side, diagonally towards the back, wrap my yarn, knit the first stitch, and then I'm going to go ahead and knit the second stitch like normal. Now from here, I'm going to take my left needle, I'm going to go across, and I'm going to pick up my first stitch like this. I'm just going to go through the bottom and kind of pick it up. What I want to do is I want to take this stitch and I want to pull it up and over this stitch and then off of my right needle completely, okay? So I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to go over this stitch, leaving it on. I'm going to go right over it and pull it all the way off my right needle and then just let it drop off, okay? So that is what it looks like. From here, I'm going to knit another stitch like normal. Pull it off. Now I have 2 stitches on my right needle. So I'm going to take my left needle. I'm going to go to the first one. I'm going to go through that. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull it over this stitch, the one right next to it. I want to go over and off of the right needle. And I'm taking it all the way off like this. Now I have one loop on my right needle, so I need to knit one from my left. Now I have two, so I want to take the backmost one. I want to pick it up. I want to pull it off and over my right needle like this, keeping the second one on the whole time, okay? So this is just going to like continue in a cycle until we get all the way across. I'm going to knit one from my left. Now that I have two on my right, I'm going to take the backmost one. I'm going to pick it up. I want to pull it off and over, but I want to leave this one on. Okay, repeat. Knit one, grab the back loop, pick it up, pull it off and over, keep the front one on, knit one, grab the back loop, pick it up, pull it off over the top, keeping the front one on, knit one, pull the back one off, knit one, pull the back one off, knit one, pull the back one off, and then you only have one stitch left. So from here, you can cut off of your yarn. I'll just pull out this loop a little bit, but I want to go ahead and pull the end through my loop, and then you can tighten it down. And then from here you can weave in your ends however you like, but this is what your cast off edge should look like. Should be all these interlocking loops. And that is it. That is how you do the garter stitch, knitting both sides front and back. We made a little tiny square. All right, guys, so that is going to be it for this tutorial. I thank you so much for watching. If you need a little bit of extra help, try to rewatch, maybe slow down the video. Don't be afraid to try again. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you how to do the purl stitch, and we will be combining those to make what is called the stockinette stitch. So work on that knit stitch for a little bit, and I will see you guys in our next tutorial. Bye!